The day had been long. Mrs. Bernier, Bobby, Mr. Kesseris, Dallas, Mr. Gaillard, Ms. Wenzel, Ms. Samara, Jack, Mr. McDonald, April, Emily, Giselle, Mia, Brady, Judalee, Marissa, Ms. White, Mrs. Camponi, Mr. Walsh, Mr. Mercier, Christian and his dad Jim, Mr. Nick, and Lynette had raced from ride to ride, screaming down Space Mountain, bouncing through Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, drifting lazily on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and enduring the endless, cheerful loops of It's a Small World. Now, as twilight settled over Main Street, USA, the group queued for one of the last rides of the night, Peter Pan's Flight. The line was nearly empty, almost everyone else had already left the park. Fireworks boomed faintly in the distance, leaving glowing embers in the night sky. The air smelled faintly of popcorn and caramel. Excitement buzzed in the group, but a creeping fatigue tugged at their nerves. Mrs. Bernier gripped the safety bar as the flying car lifted into the air. Bobby leaned forward, eyes wide, pointing out the famous rooftops of London. Mr. Kesseris muttered about being too old for this, while Dallas tried to reassure Emily, who still clutched her chest nervously. At first, the ride felt normal. The car swooped over miniature London, tiny lights twinkling below like stars. But then something shifted. Shadows moved independently from the lighting. The rooftops twisted in ways that shouldn't have been possible. The streets seemed darker than they remembered, almost too quiet. Even the figures of Peter Pan and the Lost Boys lingered on ledges, heads turning too slowly, as though watching the passengers. "Did anyone else see that?" Ms. Samara whispered, pointing to the window of the Darling house. A shadow had appeared for a second before vanishing. The ride carried them into Neverland. Mermaid Lagoon shimmered faintly, but the mermaid's eyes seemed darker, almost human. Mia shivered. "It's like they're watching us," she said, her voice barely audible over the distorted music of the ride. Bobby tugged at Mrs. Bernier's sleeve. "Why is it so dark over Skull Rock?" "It's just a shadow," Mr. Gaillard said, though his voice carried a tremor of doubt. Shapes flickered across the scenery, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Jack swore he saw silhouettes standing atop the cliffs that weren't part of the ride. Mr. Kesseris' grip on the safety bar tightened as he noticed the shadows moving in patterns no mechanical ride could allow. By the time they reached the pirate ship, the music had slowed unnaturally, humming in distorted tones. Christian whispered to his father Jim, "I think they're not just decorations." Then came the final scene. Captain Hook, trapped in Tick-Tock Croc's gaping mouth. Normally a harmless animatronic, tonight Hook's eyes glimmered with something almost alive. His lips twitched unnaturally as he whispered names. Bobby, Emily, Giselle, Christian. The water rippled unnaturally. Shadows rose from beneath the surface, twisted figures, barely human, their faces frozen in fear. A chorus of faint, warped laughter echoed from nowhere, carrying through the ride car. Marissa screamed as a hand-like shadow flickered near her shoulder. It vanished before anyone else could see it. Judalee froze, staring at the reflection in the crocodile's water. For a terrifying moment, it wasn't her own face staring back. It was distorted, hollow, and grinning. Mrs. Bernier felt a cold hand brush her arm. She spun, but nothing was there. Yet the whispers continued, soft and insistent, naming them one by one. Bobby clutched his chest, eyes darting to every corner of the car. Emily hid her face against Dallas' shoulder, trembling. Mr. McDonald muttered under his breath, "We need to get out." But even his voice sounded swallowed by the eerie hum of distorted music. As the car finally began to descend toward the unloading zone, the park seemed wrong. Main Street flickered dimly, the lights weaker than usual. The streets were empty, not a single other guest remained. The faint smell of popcorn lingered, but the scent was strangely sharp, almost metallic. Lynette called out, but her voice was swallowed by silence. Some of the group moved strangely, their movements jerky, faces twitching as if reacting to something unseen. Mrs. Bernier glanced at the others. Bobby's wide eyes reflected the dim lights, but they seemed distant, as if part of him had been left behind in the ride. Overhead, the silhouette of Peter Pan hovered above the park, watching, smiling just a little too widely. He didn't move with the wind or the fireworks, but floated unnaturally, motionless yet impossible to ignore. The group slowly exited the ride, hearts pounding. Every step toward the gates felt heavier than the last. Some whispered in disbelief, others refused to meet each other's eyes. Mr. Gaillard muttered something about a trick of the lights, but no one believed him. No one ever spoke of that ride again. But sometimes, at night, Bobby could swear he heard faint, reversed music echoing somewhere, and Emily occasionally saw shadows flick across her bedroom ceiling, calling her name. Mrs. Bernier would wake to find her safety bar from the ride inexplicably on her bed. Peter Pan's flight at Magic Kingdom wasn't just a ride. It was a door, and some doors, once opened, never close.